Students, welcome to another Mr. Ness screencast, and here are your objectives. Please pause the video, look these questions over, and get ready to copy some vocab and take some notes. Today's aim is comparing more developed countries and less developed countries. And your first term is more developed countries. But before I show you the definition, try saying that word out loud. More developed countries. More developed countries. We also call these countries MDCs. MDC, more developed country. A country's development is measured by a statistic called the Human Development Index, and the Human Development Index is a measure of three different factors: healthcare, wealth, and education. And more developed countries are the countries that score high on that index. That means their population has high levels of healthcare, wealth, and education. In general, these countries are highly industrialized. We can also create a region out of the more developed countries. Imagine an area of land that includes all of them. We call this region the Global North. The country that you live in, the US, is a more developed country, and it is part of the Global North. Countries that score lower on the Human Development Index are called less developed countries, or LDCs. Less developed countries have lower levels of healthcare, wealth, and education, and they are less industrialized. Now, let's talk about which countries fall into each category. First, know that these two categories are arbitrary, because the Global North and the Global South are perceptual regions. You just learned about those. These are regions that have no defined boundaries, and people disagree on which countries fall into each region. There is no specific Human Development Index score that a country must have to be considered more or less developed. Also, development is a dynamic process, and the line between more and less developed is always changing. Some countries like China were considered less developed only recently, but now qualify as more developed. Okay, that said, I am going to give you a list of countries that are generally accepted to be more developed. Let's go region by region. In North America, the United States and Canada are more developed countries. In Europe, all of Western Europe is considered more developed. That is a lot of countries. England, France, Germany, Italy, etc. There are about 20 of them, and they're all highly industrialized and highly developed. In Oceania, we have Australia and New Zealand. And in Asia, we have Israel, Japan, China, Hong Kong, South Korea, Taiwan, and Singapore. Hong Kong is included with China because although it wasn't part of China for a lot of the past 150 years, it is now fully controlled by the Chinese government. Take a look at these last four names on the list. Hong Kong, along with the countries of South Korea, Taiwan, and Singapore, are called the Asian Tigers because they experienced rapid industrialization in the 1960s. We're not going to talk more about the Asian Tigers in this unit, but this is a good time to learn that nickname, Asian Tigers, because we will come back to it next semester. So those are the more developed countries, also called the Global North. Now let's look at the less developed countries, also called the Global South. These are poorer and less industrialized countries. Again, there is no concrete criteria for being a less developed country, but here is my list. I'm going to start with all the countries in Central America and the Caribbean. That includes Mexico, Nicaragua, Haiti, and many others. And although there are some South American countries that are quite industrialized, For simplicity, I'm going to call all the countries in South America less developed countries. That includes Peru, Venezuela, Guyana, all of them. Same for Africa. All the countries in Africa are less developed countries. Some examples are Nigeria, Sudan, and Mozambique. Asia is mostly LDCs, with the exceptions that you listed above as MDCs. Some examples of LDCs in Asia include Syria, Mongolia, Vietnam. There are many others. As you can see from these entire regions of less developed countries, there are far more less developed countries than developed ones. That means that most of the world's countries are poorer and less industrialized. You happen to live in one of the couple dozen richer and more industrialized countries, and that's why you get to do things like take AP Human Geography. Earlier I told you that the region of more developed countries is called the Global North, and the region of less developed countries is called the Global South. And here's why. Take a look at the map. If you drew a line around the more and less developed countries, separating them, you'd see that most of the more developed countries are in the northern hemisphere, in the north, and most of the less developed countries are in the southern hemisphere. Why is that? Back in the 1800s, someone like Thomas Jefferson might have said that it was because these cooler northern countries produced more civilized people, and the hotter countries in the south produced lazy, primitive people. And that would be called environmental determinism. But I would say that it's really about two very important historical events: the Industrial Revolution and imperialism. The Industrial Revolution began in England, which is here. That's in the northern hemisphere. And then it spread to the rest of Western Europe and to North America, which is lands that England colonized. These were all in the global north. The countries that industrialized first gained tremendous power, which they then used to colonize the other countries, many of them in the southern hemisphere, the global south. And today we still see those divisions. The countries that did the colonizing in the global north are still relatively wealthy, while the countries that got colonized are still relatively poor. We'll talk more about that later in the year. Well, I hope you enjoyed learning about more developed and less developed countries. Now it's time to review the objectives. If you don't know the answer, rewind the video and look again, and I will see you in class. Bye, students.